Let's move to the next topic, that is money laundering. So money laundering is making the black money white. So write down a specific definition. Money laundering means disguising or concealing. Disguising or concealing means it can be either disguised in some form or concealed. Disguising or concealing illicit income. Disguising or concealing illicit income in order to make it appear legitimate. In order to make it appear legitimate. Okay. So now the next thing is how money laundering is done. See, it is a 3-step process. First one is placement, layering, and then integration. Very important. These 3 terms are very important. Write down. There are 3 steps involved. There are 3 steps involved. There are 3 steps involved in the process of money laundering. In the process of money laundering. Okay. First one is placement, then layering, and then integration. Let's understand first of it. See, placement is the generation of black money at certain place. See, there might be a situation where the place of generation of black money and exactly where it is placed might be different. For example, if you take very crude example of a corruption, it is not always that a corrupt official, he takes bribe in his own office or he takes bribe in the form of cash. He might say that, okay, for doing of this work, you need to pay so amount of money. And how you have to pay that amount of money? Register or purchase a house in the name of my brother-in-law in Mumbai. Now he is sitting in Delhi doing here, but the black money has been practically placed in Mumbai, and that too not in the name of the person who is generating black money, but in the name of his aide, his family member, or even in the name of his servants and Benami transactions which we see. So that's why placement means where the black money is being held. It does not necessarily mean the place of black money generation is same as the place of black money held. Okay, that is placement. Then comes the step of layering. Layering means breaking down the transactions in different steps. Breaking down the transaction in different steps. That way we can, means the tax authorities, they get confused in paper trailing of that transaction. Okay, suppose you have generated some amount of black money through any means. Now some amount of that is transferred to one account. Then from that account, that person purchases share of certain firm. Then that firm, it invests in some other property. That property held by someone else, and ultimately the benefits reach to the person who is, means all these steps, different layers are involved. Layers means layers of financial transactions are being involved in such a way. That is layering. And the third level means the third step is integration. Integration means that black money through different financial transactions, it has now been successfully made in the proper channel. It has now come to the proper channel. For example, if we take a very crude example of real estate, okay, or any educational institutions, they are also involved in long time conversion of black money to white money. Say, suppose you you purchase a property for the, means a property is there and you generated some black money and you purchased a property with it, okay? Or you might be that you yourself got the black money in the form of a property. Now suppose it is of the cost of 10 lakh rupees, for example, okay? So 10 lakh rupees property is there. Now you may say that I am, after holding it for some time, you may sell it to some person, okay? You may sell it to some person for say 20 lakh rupees, okay? After escalation of, because you held it for some time, sold it for 20 lakh rupees. But you might ask that person to say that, okay, I'm selling it to you. I'm selling it to you for 20 lakh rupees, but I will make a sale deed of 50 lakh rupees. Okay, you made a sale deed of 50 lakh rupees, and you said that I sold this property for 50 lakh rupees, and I gained 50 lakh rupees. I made this either gain or capital gains or whatever form. And so, what was the gain? 40 lakh rupees. And you said, okay, this was the money I gained. I will pay you paid money tax for this money also. Okay. Now, from 10 lakh means you sold it for 20 lakh. You said it is 50 lakh. This 30 lakh, whatever black money you had generated, now it becomes white. It's 30 lakh in this whole transaction, because it was sold at 20 and actually shown to be of 50 lakh. This 30 lakh amount of black money has been turned into white. Or an easier example, suppose you open an educational institute. Okay, now you are a bureaucrat, a non-deserving bureaucrat who somehow got good marks in ethics and somehow fooled the people in interview and became a bureaucrat, and now he's involved in long time bribery. Okay, now you say that I am through my money earned through my from my some sources and after taking some loans, or in the name of your spouse, you can say that my father-in-law is a big landlord, he helped me with it, and you open an educational institution in the name of you or in the name of your spouse. Both are included, no issues with that. Okay, now you say that I am getting, means you show in the register that there are 200 students registered with you, registered in your education institution, and everyone is paying 1 lakh fees. Okay, how much it will become? 2 crore. But actually there are only 20 students or 100 students, depending upon whatever, and they are paying, suppose if you, for the sake, suppose there are 100 students only paying 50,000 fees, how much it will be? 50 lakh. Okay, now you are actually getting an income of 50 lakh, but you said I am getting 2 crores and you paid the tax for it also. 2 crore you paid, means you showed everything, you showed you deducted your salary and all those expenses, and you paid tax for these 2 crore rupees. Whatever, suppose कितना tax होगा 2 crore पे लगभग 30%, कितना 60 लाख रुपए ना, कुछ बढ़ा के मान लो 70 लाख रुपए लेके, यार कठिन होता है वो सब. ठीक है, now you spent 70 lakh, you gave it to tax authorities also. So this 1.3 crore rupees, this amount, this is still, you can now show this 1.3 crore rupees you have now converted from black to white. मान लो 1 करोड़ रुपया आपने उस साल घूस लिया हुआ था. Now आप उससे घर खरीदो, गाड़ी खरीदो, कुछ भी खरीदो. What is the main problem with the black money? Because the main problem with black money is if you spend that, the tax authorities will ask you, भाई साहब आपकी 50,000 रुपए तनख्वाह है, आप ये 80 लाख की गाड़ी कहां से खरीद के लाए? Now you can say कि मेरी तनख्वाह 50,000 रुपए है, but I have a school also from which I earn 2 crore annually, and after paying tax I have 1.3 crores left with me. तो 80 लाख की गाड़ी खरीद ली मैंने. Or you can go to very expensive foreign visits also. You have not generated any money for any, means the money actually generated from this was even less than the tax you have paid. But here it becomes white. अगर कोई छपा डालने जाता है, बता दो भाई हाँ बच्चे हैं 200 रजिस्टर्ड, 100 मक्कार है, वो आए नहीं क्लास. Okay, so that's how. And even more smart people who want कि हम क्यों 70 लाख रुपया टैक्स अथॉरिटी में दे, what they do is they purchase agricultural land. Now if you because agricultural income is exempted from tax, उन्होंने कहा मैंने कुछ agricultural land खरीदी, अब वो हो सकता है बंजर पड़ा हो या आप उसमें गेहूं उगाते हो, but you can always say that I am cultivating medicinal plants there and I am gaining that much 1 crore or 50 lakh amount of money. One very renowned bureaucrat, very much renowned on social media, I will not take the name, case is going on against her for similar type of case. बहुत सारे फीमेल ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं, जितना ज्यादा शर्लॉक होम्स मत बनो तुम लोग. Okay, so these cases going against her, that does not mean that only she is culprit of this thing. She got caught somehow, means not yet proved. This is the matter sub judice. It might be a false allegation only. So if you are involved in this thing of using the agricultural land and showing huge agricultural income, then you are spared of paying that tax also. These are all the methods of converting black money to white. But you will be able to use it after you get selected and you sell your soul. You'll have to sell your soul, then you will be making use of these things. Similar ways now, some people are not that smart that they do all these things. That very smart, that Jharkhand Mukti Morcha case, JMM, in the very initial days when P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister, and he was facing he has to prove his majority, and he paid some bribe to these Shibu Soren and friends for voting in his favor. Very P.V. Narasimha Rao very early days, 90s. So how they got caught? Because these naive people, these cute little MPs, they took the bribe and they deposited it in their bank account. So that's how they got caught. But an irony is that they could not be prosecuted because that was a thing which they did in the parliament, and because using the parliamentary privilege, that was the thing which they did in the house, and it cannot be scrutinized. It cannot be. So that's why Shibu Soren got punished in some other case, murder or some other case. But for that they were let scot-free because of this constitutional measure. So you are disproportionate assets case. Na? That's how, if suppose some people are not smart enough, and they tend to use their PAN number or some of other things, some means by which suppose you purchase a property, okay, and you purchase that property in your own name or in the name of your immediate family member, okay, that will be counted as your own property. Now you are not able to explain that suppose your income is 50,000 rupees and some other sources also including, but if you purchase a property of 2 crore, 3 crore, you will not be able to explain how you got hold of that amount of money. So because your assets are not proportional to your income, that becomes a DA case. Okay, all these people, see, they have good networks. Even now today with use of PAN cards and all, means it is very easy to find it out. So the prudent people, they take that land or that property in the name of someone else. But if they get hold of you, if they are suspicious of you, they'll go into detailed investigation, and then at times if you are holding it in the name of your servants or all those things, it may come into light. For example, that firm of Nitin Gadkari, it has I don't recall the name. The board of directors had the name of even his servants and all those things. Okay, so that's how they investigate the DA cases. That is the purpose of FIU and Enforcement Directorate and all those things. Okay, so this is the whole nexus of money laundering. Now you understand it. Now write down 1 or 2 lines about these 3 steps. The first one is placement. Placement. The placement means the generation of black money. The generation of black money, and it might be the generation of black money, and it might be placed, away from the actual place of generation. Now you understand what I'm saying? What this sentence means? Away from the actual place of generation of the money. Okay, so it is placement. The second step is layering. Layering, Layering. Layering. Layering means using the money for multiple and complicated financial transactions, multiple and complicated financial transactions, so as to confuse the authorities. Okay. The next step is layering. Oh, sorry, integration. Integration means reintroduction. Integration means reintroduction of the black money. Reintroduction of the black money in the financial system. Reintroduction of black money in the financial system in the form of legitimate money. In the form of legitimate money. That now it has been converted from black money to white money. That is placement. Okay. So that is the 3-step procedure. Now another term, these are 3 steps. Another term is smurfing. Smurfing. S-M-U-R-F-I-N-G. No. These 3 steps are separate thing. Another term, another important term related to money laundering is smurfing. Smurfing means breaking the financial transactions. Breaking the financial transactions in large number of small pieces. Smurfing means breaking the financial transactions. Smurfing means breaking the financial transaction in large number of small pieces. Okay. Suppose you have to, now smurfing can be involved in any of the 3 steps. Suppose you have to take the bribe, you can take in money multiple number of pieces. Or if you have to invest it somewhere, you can do it in number of pieces. What is the purpose of smurfing? It serves 2 purposes. First, because the quantum of transaction is very small, so it reduces the suspicion. Okay, because when you are when a large amount of transaction is happening, it makes the authorities a bit suspicious. We'll see that in just after when we'll talk about the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Their reports are also prepared, suspicious transactions report, cash transactions report. Since it is a very small amount of money, nobody suspects it. And the second thing is it increases the complexity of the transaction also because of the sheer number. So write down, smurfing reduces the suspicion. Smurfing reduces the suspicion and increases the complexity. Okay. Smurfing can be used in any of the 3 steps. It's not any step per se, but it is a methodology. It is a tool which can be employed in any of the. So that's why I remember when this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana was launched, it was one of the criticisms that because so many number of accounts will be opened, it might be utilized by nefarious elements because there are so many accounts. And that's what happened during demonetization also. You've seen that. Because of that 2.5 lakh limit, number of people, they use the Jan Dhan accounts of the poor people and so that to deposit it there. And later, I recently there was some function in my house and I went to the bank manager to get some cash, specifically the new currency note. So he said that, I said, so much time has elapsed since the demonetization moved. Why is there so much of rush still? So he said, now it is the rush of the people who had deposited the money in PMJDY. Now they are withdrawing that money. So that rush is still continuing. Okay. So that was an example of smurfing, small pieces mein break karke. This was one of the fears attached with the PMJDY that it can be used in smurfing. Okay. So that was about how money laundering is done. Now another thing can be how this affects the economy. So see, it is obvious, the effects are obvious because of this money laundering. First, there is a whole parallel economy going on, and with the extent of which economy we are completely unaware of. Now, whatever economic policies the government is framing, they are framing based on the economic situation of the country. Now, the economic situation of the country that is being informed to the authorities, okay, that is of the mainstream economy or the real economy. Since we are completely not aware of this parallel economy, and it is suspected that it might be almost equivalent to the white economy. So whatever policies we are framing, these policies might be completely unaware about the ground reality. That is one of the macroeconomic impact. That economic, write down, impacts of money laundering. See, 1,000 impacts can be enumerated. Some are very common ones. I am telling you which are the important, which you should write down. The first is because of existence of a parallel economy, because of the existence of a parallel economy, the economic policies, because of the existence of a parallel economy, comma, the economic policies framed on the basis of white economy, the economic policies framed on the basis of white economy become unrealistic, and threaten the economic security of the nation. Become unrealistic and threaten the economic security of the nation. Okay, this is one impact. Other is major part of laundered money, major part of laundered money or even black money is used in, major part of laundered money is used in terror financing, and drug trafficking and things like that. Okay. Another indirect impact is that money laundering proves to be an incentive. Money laundering proves to be an incentive for generation of black money. Money laundering proves to be an incentive for generation of black money. Now understand this, because people are aware that if they generate black money, there are measures, there are ways available to convert it to white money. अगर ऐसा संभावना होता कि the money gained through bribery, it cannot be utilized, then it would have been acted as a disincentive. If you cannot use that money, what is the purpose of that money? But since they know that they through the measures of money laundering, they can convert that black money to white money and use it like any money they generate. That's why it acts as an incentive for black money. Now, other than that, you can route on your own, like it encourages bribery, it encourages all these illegal activities, funding of say these funding of terror nexus and funding of this organized crime. It is mainly through money laundering only. It increases hawala and all those things you can write down on your own. These 2-3 I found are a bit unique one. That's why I told you. Okay. It impacts the economic growth of the nation and all those things, inclusive growth and everything will come into play then. Okay. So let's now talk about the recent legislative arrangement, the recent one, which was the amendments to money laundering, prevention of money laundering act. Amendments to prevention of money laundering act. Okay. See, according to that act, PMLA, write down the definition of money laundering as per PMLA. PMLA means Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Write down definition: any process or activity connected with proceeds of crime. any process or activity connected with proceeds of crime, including its concealment, comma, possession, including its concealment, comma, possession, comma, acquisition, possession, comma, acquisition or use, acquisition or use, and projecting or claiming it, as untainted property, So this is the as untainted. Untainted means completely clear. As untainted property. So money laundering is basically any process or activity connected with proceeds of crime, including its concealment, possession, acquisition or use, and projecting or claiming it to be untainted property. That is money laundering as per the act. Now write the key major changes which took place through this amendment. First one is it expanded the definition of money laundering. The next thing is expanded the definition. Along with that, the second thing is it removed the upper limit of fine of 5 lakh. Earlier, there was an upper limit of fine that the fine can be up to 5 lakh, but now they have removed the upper limit. Now the authorities can even take higher fine. Okay. Now any property which is gained through this money laundering, it can be attached. Attached means it can be temporarily taken over by the government till the proceedings are going on. Now after the proceedings complete, if the government, means it is proved that it is not through money laundering, then it will be returned back. That is the difference between attachment and confiscation. Attachment is a temporary thing. Confiscation means ab gaya. Okay. So earlier the limit of attachment was 90 days. Now the duration of attachment has been increased to 180 days. Write down the duration of attachment of property increased to 180 days. Because see, all these steps like charge sheeting and investigation, what is the purpose of attachment? The purpose of attachment is that till the time these proceedings are completed, that person should not be able to influence it or things like that. Has been increased to 180 days. Has been increased to 180 days. That is a different thing altogether. That is under the SARFAESI Act. Under the SARFAESI Act, where suppose you took a loan from from any bank or any financial institution for that matter. Now you have to put something as your guarantee. Okay. Now you put some of your property as a guarantee against which you took a loan, and you were unable to pay that loan. Now the bank, under the SARFAESI Act, the bank is under the full control since you guaranteed it. Now because that the amount of loan which you took, it will become a NPA for the government or a burden for the government. Now what will they? They will burden for the bank. Now the bank can auction that property, and from that proceeds of that property, they can compensate their dues. Okay, that is a different thing altogether. So it has been increased to 180 days. Another change has been made. See, 2 reports have to write down. 2 reports have to be prepared under PMLA. 2 reports have to be prepared under PMLA. The first is the CTR, Cash Transaction Report. 2 reports. The first is the CTR, Cash Transaction Report. What does CTR mean? CTR means any cash transaction beyond 10 lakh rupees. Any cash transaction beyond 10 lakh rupees. It has to be maintained on a monthly basis. The CTR has to be maintained on a monthly basis, and it has to be forwarded to the Enforcement Directorate and the regulator. CTR, any means the cash transaction reports all the transactions above 10 lakh rupees. It has to be maintained on a monthly basis. Has to be forwarded to two agencies. First is the Enforcement Directorate and the regulator. For example, if any bank is involved, who is the regulator of the banks? RBI. It has to be forwarded to ED and RBI both. Okay, that is cash transaction report. And that after that there is one STR, suspicious transaction report. STR, suspicious transaction report. It means that suppose any transaction appears to be suspicious, that has to be included in this report. And STR, suspicious transaction report, cash transaction report and suspicious transaction report. Even if it is not a cash transaction, for example, if any account has been remaining dormant or it has seen very small amount of transactions, say 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, and suddenly 50 lakh rupees are deposited in that account, maybe not cash but also through wire transfer 50 lakh rupees come to that account. Now this transaction is a bit suspicious because that account has been almost lying dormant or has been used for very petty transactions. So that becomes a suspicious. Now the banks have to establish whether it is a suspicious transaction or not. And this STR has to be forwarded to both, means the ED and the regulator, within 7 days after establishment that the transaction is suspicious. Write down. STR has to be forwarded. STR has to be forwarded within 7 days. Forwarded within 7 days of establishing the transaction. STR has to be forwarded within 7 days of establishing the transaction as suspicious. Okay. These are the two reports which have to be maintained and forwarded. Now what change happened that earlier this maintenance of CTR and STR, it was limited to banks. Okay. Now since because of this both reporting to both this ED and their regulator. Earlier, now the change which happened is earlier it was pertaining only to banks, but now we have seen because of this ongoing issue of financial inclusion, number of other agencies are also involved other than banks in financial matters. So now it has given the concept of reporting entity. Write down. The amendment introduces the concept of reporting entity. The amendment introduces the concept of reporting entity where other financial institutions other means other than banks, where other financial institutions, bracket में लिख लीजिए, other than banks, where other financial institutions other than banks, means banks तो हैं ही, इसके अलावा जो भी financial, because banks are also financial institutions, so where other financial institutions have also to maintain and report these two reports, have also to maintain and forward these two reports. Means any financial entity now, they have to maintain this report, even if it is a microfinance institution, even if it is an insurance agency, whatever it is. If it is a financial institution or an NBFC, non-banking financial company, if it is a financial institution, they have to keep these two reports and they have to forward it to ED and their respective regulators. Okay, that is one thing which happened. Okay, these were the key amendments to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Okay, other than that, small amendments like now appeal can be made directly to the Supreme Court. Earlier it had to be made to High Court. Now appeal against the appellate authority, appeal against the appellate tribunal, can be made directly to Supreme Court. Can be made directly to Supreme Court. Okay. So these are the major amendments to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It is important because it has been in news recently. Other than that, whatever we learned, it will provide you a basic framework, and sometimes like the steps involved and all those things, they can be asked directly also. Okay, or like it has been seen in PT also, they might ask to which field are these terms associated to. Okay, that completes our discussion on money laundering.